Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a look at a company that's, well, it's been making headlines with some pretty wild swings, RYDE Group. The big question on everyone's mind, and really what we're trying to figure out here is RYDE Group a good time to buy now? We've gathered a stack of research articles, the usual notes to really unpack what's going on with this Singapore-based mobility and quick commerce platform. Before we jump in, if you're finding these explorations helpful and getting you up to speed quickly, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, maybe leave a comment, and consider buying us a coffee. Your support really helps us keep these going. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, RYDE Group looks like a high-risk, speculative investment opportunity. Since its IPO back in March 2024, that's when it first started trading publicly, it seemed just extreme volatility, trading, a staggering 98% below its all-time high of $22.49. That's quite a drop.
It is. And what's fascinating here is that while RYDE shows some, strategic positioning, especially thinking about Singapore's growing EV market, there are substantial underlying challenges, things that really stand out. We're primarily looking at mounting losses and even a very serious NYSE compliance issue that adds this layer of immediate concern.
Okay, some potential, but big hurdles too. Let's dig into those fundamentals first. What does the core numbers tell us about RYDE's financial health? Revenue, profitability.
Okay, revenue growth. Overall, it's been moderate. They have a 4-year compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of about 13%. But the recent trend is where it gets concerning. Growth has decelerated significantly. In 2024, revenue was SGD 8.95 million, that's Singapore dollars. That's only a small 3.27% increase year over year. And that followed even slower growth, just 1.79% in 2023. Compare that to, say, 42.45% growth back in 2022. You see a clear slowdown. It's losing momentum.
Right, moderate growth slowing down, not exactly what you want to see for a company trying to scale up. But profitability, that's often the real test, isn't it? How are they doing when it comes to actually making money?
This is where it gets really challenging, and frankly, it's a major red flag for anyone looking at this. The company faces severe profitability issues, deteriorating margins. They've reported losses in all 4 fiscal years we have data for, and those losses are actually accelerating. They increased by 45.4% in 2024. Their net income margin in 2024 was negative 208.38%. Operating margin, negative 208.95%.
Wow, negative 200%.
Yes. To put that into perspective for you, it means for every single dollar of revenue they brought in, they were losing more than $2. The net loss for 2024, SGD 18.65 million. That's up significantly from SGD 12.83 million in 2023. This isn't just about losing money, it suggests a fundamental problem maybe with their unit economics. Normally, you want margins to improve as companies scale, right?
Yeah.
Show efficiency. The fact that losses are accelerating suggests the core business model might be getting less efficient per dollar of revenue. That's a big worry.
Losing over $2 for every dollar they bring in. Yeah, that's a significant burn. It really does sound like a race against time. How are they managing that kind of outflow? How's the balance sheet looking? Are they running out of cash?
Well, on the surface, they have a debt-free balance sheet. SGD is 0.0 in total debt, so a 0% debt-to-equity ratio. They also have a current ratio of 1.60, shareholders' equity of SGD 3.9 million. That might sound okay at first glance, no traditional debt payments. However, and this is critical, the company faces severe cash runway concerns. Based on current burn rates, they have less than 1 year of operating cash left. Their cash position is SGD 5.73 million. So while they don't have traditional debt, they are burning through their cash reserves incredibly quickly just to fund operations. It's a different kind of financial tightrope, maybe even more urgent. They'll likely need more capital soon, which could dilute existing shareholders.
Okay, that definitely puts debt-free in perspective. They need to fix that cash burn fast or find more funding. Let's shift gears. What about their market position? Who are they really up against in Singapore? Is it crowded?
It is. RYDE operates in Singapore's mobility market, which is pretty much a duopoly. It's dominated by Grab and Gojek. And these are giants, right? Massive market share, brand recognition, huge ecosystems. RYDE tries to differentiate. Their main thing seems to be a zero-commission model for drivers. That's appealing for gig workers. They also offer some niche things like pet-friendly travel called RYDE Pet, quick commerce delivery through RydeSend, and integrated payments via RydePay, trying to carve out their own space, appeal to specific customer segments.
Interesting differentiators. That zero commission model, it sounds like a bold move. But given those accelerating losses we just talked about, how sustainable is that? Is it a temporary tactic they can't really afford longer?
That's exactly the challenge. It attracts drivers, sure, but puts immense pressure on revenue and makes those profit problems worse. It's a very tough balance.
And despite these unique services, their focus is just Singapore, right? Seems like a small pond compared to Grab or Gojek operating regionally.
You're right, that geographic limitation is a constraint. Focusing only on Singapore limits their growth potential compared to rivals who can scale across Southeast Asia. This single market dependency means their growth ceiling is just inherently lower, and they're more vulnerable to local economic shifts or regulatory changes just within Singapore, less diversification of risk.
So we've got slowing revenue, accelerating losses, dwindling cash, fierce competition in just one market. Given all that, how is the market actually valuing RYDE? Are investors seeing a bargain or just staying away? What did the valuation multiples say?
Well, when you look at the valuation multiples, RYDE trades at what appears to be attractive ratios, but you need that context. For instance, their price to sales, or PS, is 0.57x. Price to book, PB, is 1.59x. Market cap around $13.18 million. For you, the listener, PS measures market value against sales, PB against assets. We use these when there are no profits. Because a price-to-earnings PE ratio, well, doesn't apply here since they're losing money. Compared to tech sector averages, they trade at a significant discount on sales multiples, which likely reflects deep market skepticism about their growth prospects and, yeah, those severe profit challenges. It suggests investors aren't convinced about long-term viability despite the low numbers. The market's pricing in a lot of risk.
That makes sense. Cheap, but maybe cheap for a very good reason. Let's switch to the technical side. We know it's been volatile since the IPO. What do the charts tell us? Sounds like a wild ride.
It truly has been. RYDE shows extreme volatility, just dramatic price swings, almost unbelievable sometimes. The stock recently had this massive 155% single-day surge. That was June 18th, 2025. Volume was nearly 50 times average, huge spike, but its all-time high was $22.49 back in September 2024, and the all-time low, $0.16 just on June 13th, 2025, only days before that surge. Current price is around $0.45. The 52-week range is $0.16 to $22.49. That range alone tells you everything about the swings.
Wow, 155% surge in a day.
Yeah.
Does that signal a real shift, or is it more like a short squeeze or just speculative frenzy you see with microcaps, especially while facing compliance issues? And what about the technical indicators amid all that? Any clear signals there?
That's a great question. It's hard to say definitively without more data, maybe on short interest. But yeah, 155% jump on that kind of volume often points more towards speculative activity, not usually a fundamental reevaluation given the financials. Could be short covering, could be new speculative money jumping in for a quick trade. As for indicators, as of March 2025, all the major moving averages, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200-day, they all signal sell, meaning the stock is trading way below them. That usually indicates a strong downtrend. However, some momentum indicators, like the 14-day RSI at 27.53, MCD at -0.02, Williams per SAR at -80.24, they're signaling buy. These often suggest a stock is oversold, like an RSI below 30 hints it's been sold off too heavily, maybe due for a short-term bounce, even if the main trend is down.
Like a rubber band stretched too far.
Kind of, yeah. It might snap back a bit. This contradiction really highlights the battle. Strong downtrend versus potential short-term bounces from being deeply oversold. For key levels, support is around 30 cents and 16 cents and way down at 0.02 cents. Resistance levels are $0.59 and $0.88.
So a mix of bearish long-term signals and some bullish short-term momentum hints really underscores the high-risk, speculative nature. Beyond the numbers and charts, what recent news might be influencing these wild swings in sentiment?
There are a couple of big things. In June 2025, RYDE acquired a 40% stake in Atoll Discovery. This is to expand their EV presence. It gives them access to 100 BYD electric vehicles. This aligns nicely with Singapore's EV transition goals, the 2040 phase-out of combustion engines. That's a potentially significant strategic move for the long term. But on the regulatory side, back in May 2025, RYDE got a NYSE American non-compliance notice.
Ah, that's serious.
Very serious. They have to submit a compliance plan basically explaining how they'll meet listing requirements. By June 20th, 2025, if they fail to comply, they could get delisted. That would be catastrophic for liquidity and investor confidence. It raises big questions about their operational stability.
That compliance issue sounds like a huge near-term hurdle. Puts a lot of pressure on management. What about analyst coverage? Are many people watching this? What's the sentiment there?
Coverage is pretty limited. That's typical for smaller, volatile companies like this. Among those who do cover it, sentiment is mixed. Maxim Group, for instance, they maintain a buy rating. Their average price target is 61 cents, suggesting about 35% upside from current levels. But that's just one firm, right? And targets always come with assumptions. As for insiders, no recent insider trading activity reported. So kind of neutral sentiment there. Insiders aren't buying big, but they aren't selling heavily either. Doesn't give a strong signal.
Limited outside validation, neutral insiders.
Sure.
Given all this, what are the upcoming catalysts, things that could really move the stock, short or long term? What should listeners watch?
Short term, the absolute most critical thing is that NYSE compliance plan. How they address that is key. It's due very soon. Then, their next earnings report, expected in September 2025. That'll show the latest financials, the cash burn rate, and also the integration of that EV partnership with Atoll Discovery. How quickly can they get those EVs working and earning longer term? There's the overall Singapore EV market growth, projected to hit $564 million by 2030. That's a nice tailwind. RYDE has its own RYDE Green program aiming for 1,200 EVs by 2027. Plus, the government rolling out 60,000 EV charging points could boost demand. And, crucially, potential regional expansion. They've mentioned soft launches in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Australia. That could broaden their market significantly if they overcome the current financial problems.
So lots of potential growth angles, especially in EVs, which is definitely exciting. But we started by saying this is high risk. We've seen why financially. Can you just really break down the main risk factors again? What should someone be most worried about here?
Absolutely. The risks are layered and they are significant. Let's start stock specific. First, that delisting risk from NYSE non-compliance. It's very real. If they don't fix it, the stock could be kicked off the exchange. Huge impact on trading. Then the cash burn. Less than a year of runway means they almost certainly need more capital soon. That likely means dilution for current shareholders. Their single market dependency on Singapore makes them vulnerable locally. And intense competitive pressure from Grab and Gojek, who just have way more resources, bigger user bases, more marketing muscle.
Okay, those are company specific. What about broader risks?
Right. Sector and market risks. High volatility, typical of microcaps, we've seen that clearly. Limited liquidity can also create risks of price manipulation. Potential regulatory changes in Singapore's transport or fintech sectors could hit them. Economic sensitivity, too. Mobility services or discretionary spending, people cut back in downturns. And then the macro risks. Interest rate sensitivity impacts growth companies' funding costs, inflation hits margins, and just general economic conditions in Singapore and Southeast Asia. It's quite a gauntlet of risks. Delisting, cash burn, competition, market volatility.
It really sounds like a high-stakes situation. A
Yeah.
lot has to go right. So considering everything, the slowing growth, the accelerating losses, the market position, the volatility, that long list of risks, what's the overall picture from the analysis?
Yeah.
Buy, sell, hold?
The overall rating presented is a 3 out of 10. Pretty low. The rationale is basically, yes, there's potential upside, especially with the EV strategy, and maybe those low valuation metrics look tempting. But the combination of mounting losses, the NYSE compliance issue, extreme volatility, and being stuck in one market, it creates substantial risks. According to this analysis, those risks currently outweigh the potential rewards for most investors. It's highly speculative, not for the faint of heart.
A 3 out of 10. That's a strong statement. What about entry points or time horizons for someone who's interested, despite the risk, for the very risk tolerant?
Well, for entry price, a conservative range suggested is $0.25 to 35 cents. That's below current support, waiting for maybe more decline, a better risk reward.
Right.
An aggressive entry, maybe the current range, $0.40 to 50 cents. In terms of horizon, it's seen as more suitable for short-term trading. The high volatility creates opportunities, potentially, but it absolutely requires active, very active risk management. It's considered less suitable for long-term investment. The fundamental challenges, the limited market size, they constrain that long-term growth potential. The long-term picture just doesn't look robust enough for a typical buy-and-hold approach. Requires constant watching.
So for those short-term traders potentially tempted by the swings, what are the really specific guidelines? How should they manage that risk?
Given the extreme volatility and microcap nature, you absolutely must limit exposure, maintain strict stop losses. A suggested stop loss is maybe 0.30 cents below that key support level. Cut losses quickly if it goes wrong. A take profit target, maybe 0.60s, near that analyst target, near a resistance level. Have an exit plan for gains too. Position size should be tiny, maximum 1-2% of a portfolio because the risk is just so high. This stock is really only suitable for the most risk-tolerant investors, people with very high conviction about Singapore's EV transition and about RYDE's ability to execute and navigate all these serious financial and regulatory problems. It is absolutely not a stock you can just buy and forget about.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of this? RYDE Group is, well, it's a fascinating example, a company with big ambitions, particularly in EVs, a growing sector. But it's clearly navigating a minefield. Financial challenges, regulatory hurdles. It's a stark reminder, isn't it, that a low valuation alone doesn't automatically mean opportunity, especially when fundamental problems like cash burn and compliance issues are staring you in the face.
It really raises an important question, I think. In a world with so much information, so many investment opportunities, how do you balance that allure of potential high upside, especially in exciting sectors like EVs, with the very real, very significant risks, especially with speculative investments like RYDE Group seems to be right now? It really comes down to understanding your own tolerance for risk, having a clear strategy, and being truly committed to active management. Because with a company like this, set it and forget it is definitely not on the table. You have to stay engaged.